Wayne Rooney's done an interview with the Everton fans over at Toffee TV. A fantastic listen. Go check it out if you haven't done it already. Raw and honest from Rooney and his opinions. And naturally they discussed David Moyes, because Moyes was obviously the manager at Goodison Park while Rooney came through in the first team. But perhaps surprisingly to me, not to Baj, the host of Toffee TV, he was expecting this. He was aware that Moyes held Rooney back. Now, naturally, why would I know how Everton fans felt of the management of David Moyes towards Wayne Rooney? I wouldn't do. But Baz did, so he wasn't surprised when Rooney alluded to the fact that he felt David Moyes actually held him back in his progress at Everton. But not just that. Moyes wasn't keen on Wayne Rooney's close relationship with Duncan Ferguson. He didn't like it, Moyes. So Rooney speaks about that in that interview. And there's more to come. It's only part one. There's more parts to come as well. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more from Rooney about David Moyes. But in this video, you're not going to hear my views. I'm going to give you mine in a couple of weeks once all the interviews are out. But you're going to hear the views of Gatesy and Duke from the Forwards from Iron YouTube channel, because during the World Cup we're going to collaborate with a few West Ham channels. And if you want to hear more from them after you've heard the next bit, do check out their channel. The link is in the description below, and their latest video will be on the end slate of this one. So when you finish hearing from them, their latest video will pop up on the screen. Just click it. Make sure you subscribe to their channel as well. Anyway, I'm going to disappear, and you're going to hear from Gatesy and Duke.
Hello, Hammers chat. I'm Rob. That's Duke, and we are Fools from Iron West Ham United. We are another West Ham fan YouTube channel. And if you haven't already subscribed to us, please consider doing so, and make sure you hit the bell notification so you'll know when we're going live or adding any new stuff as we go along. Before we get into what we're going to talk about, I'd really like to thank Gio and Gonzo for giving us the opportunity to come onto their channel and talk about what we're going to talk about and do a little bit of shameless self-promotion, really. So appreciate it, guys. Really do. Really big thanks to you. So, Duke, what we're going to talk about today, there was a post that I saw on social media yesterday from our mutual friend Ken Irons. He was watching an interview that Wayne Rooney gave to an Everton fan YouTube channel called Toffee TV. And I got to be honest, I sat there and I watched it. I watched it for the just short of an hour, the entire duration. And it was fairly apparent that David Moyes, when Wayne Rooney was coming through Everton, I remember he was causing a big stir, coming in the youth team, scoring goals left, right and centre, the next big thing. And Wayne Rooney has said in his interview, it was quite apparent that he was being held back by David Moyes when he was coming through. And I just sort of, I know this is 20 years ago and this is in a different club and all the rest of it, but you sort of fast forward to now, West Ham manager, all these academy prospects that he's got in the under-18s, in the under-23 since he's walked through the door. And obviously we know the situation with Harrison Ashby, amongst others that have moved on previously. And I sit there and I go, this rings true. I look at it and I go, does he hold players back? Does he maybe not have the faith in these players? I don't know. It was an interesting interview, and it kind of concerns me, mate. I got to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, as I say, I've not been anywhere near YouTube since the World Cup started. For those that don't know, I run a pub, and obviously the break in the Premier League and the break from West Ham has coincided with, the World Cup and obviously me being incredibly busy. So I've not seen any YouTube. I've not seen any links or anything else and stuff that's been, going around other than anything to do with the World Cup and obviously my company. So when you asked me about this and you pinged me the link over, I'll be honest with you, I haven't watched it in depth. I haven't scrutinised it. What I will say is I have seen the snippet where he talks about Moyes and he talks about the bit where he's holding him back. And there's something there, Rob. There has to be. I mean, I'm not being funny. Listen, we've already lost, Perkins? Perkins has already gone. Alese has already left and gone to Sunderland. You mentioned Ashby. Ashby's on the verge of signing a pre-contract with Newcastle in the next, 2 or 3 weeks. And then, as you say, I think Longello is currently out on loan at Birmingham, isn't he?
Yes, doing very well.
Very well indeed. Yeah, I mean, and then when you come back to the first team and you look at the likes of Bowen having an absolute mare that he's had. Let's not even try and pretend that he's had the best of seasons so far. Thomas Souček not had the best of seasons by, any stretch of the imagination. And then we look and we kind of have Connor Coventry sitting there, and we've had Connor Coventry sitting there for some time now. Whether or not he's ready to step up, we're never going to know until he plays. He's played in Europe, granted. He did a decent job. Souček and Bowen look to be undroppable. And for what reason, Rob? Is it the same reason then that the kids are not getting the run? Is it because there's a kind of favouritism going on? Like you say, is there a lack of trust? I mean, in a way, I don't want to defend him because there's an obvious issue there. There is an obvious issue, but I want to touch on the situation with Reece Oxford after that the really good game he had against Arsenal. Kept Mesut Ozil in his pocket, didn't he? If I remember rightly, we won 2-0 goals, I think, from Kouyaté and Zarate.
Yep.
If I remember rightly.
Absolutely.
And Oxford kept Ozil in his pocket. Reece Oxford was absolutely phenomenal, fantastic. Everyone was raving about him over, the following weeks. He got his big contract. I think it was 35 grand a week. I might be wrong, and someone can, probably correct me on that somewhere. But I think it was 35 grand a week, and then what happened? He fell off the radar. And I believe he's now at Augsburg in Germany. So it doesn't always, mean that starlet, if you will, coming through is going to be worth, it's going to sound classy here, but not worth the time and effort that gets put in. Do you know what I mean? You mentioned earlier generational talent like Wayne Rooney. And 20 years ago, he's talking, or from 20 years ago, he's reminiscing, and he's remembering, the problems of and the feelings of being held back. I just wonder. Let me ask you this, Rob. Do you reckon it's, I suppose, a resentment from Moyes that he
Possibly.
worked hard for what he got?
Possibly, but I mean, the thing is, and this is where, when I hear people saying that David Moyes is a dinosaur, if that's the case, that what you're saying is correct, that he's, and bear in mind that David Moyes is about 60 years of age, and he's looking at players coming through at the age of 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever, and thinking, oh, it wasn't like that in my day, blah, 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 blah. Well, then he is a dinosaur. He's living up to that tag. That's precisely what a dinosaur is. It's, it's someone that's extinct. Your era doesn't exist anymore. You're comparing the players of today to an era that is no longer around. It's a completely different ball game. And the thing that annoys me, Duke, is that we have, and and I've spoken about this many times, you and I, we have on the carpet, as the players come out of the tunnel, the Academy of Football emblazoned there for 62,000 fans at the stadium to see in all its glory. And I don't see that we're living up to that tag. We haven't lived up to that tag for many years. Now, I'm not blaming David Moyes for all of that. I'm homing in on the here and the now. I'm looking at a situation where we've got talent, and I'll just throw this in. I was at an event on Friday just gone, and I'm not going to name who I had the conversation with, but what I will say is who I had the conversation with is involved in the youth setup. And there wasn't a sort of like an implicit accusation, but just there was a certain unspoken vibe that I was getting that unless they're absolutely exceptional absolutely exceptional world-class talents, they're probably not going to get the time of day under this manager. They're probably not. And it may not be that it's unique to David Moyes, but I'm not interested in the other 19 Premier League clubs. I'm interested in what happens at West Ham. I'm interested in what happens at Rush Green. I'm interested in what happens at Chadwell Heath. We are not living up to that Academy of Football tag right here, right now, under this regime. And like I say, the Harrison Ashby is the one that really is boiling my blood at the minute. I could have used another word there, but that's the one that really frustrates me, because he's a guy that I've looked at quite closely, and I think, personally, in my opinion, I think he is our best right back option at the club. Yeah. I certainly believe he is our best right wing back option if we wanted to play a wing back system. Definitely our best wing back option on the right, no doubt about it. And yet we've allowed a situation to occur where the player just doesn't believe that he's going to get any time in the first team, and he's just gone, do you know what? I'm off up north. I'm gonna head up to Newcastle, and I think I've actually got a better chance of progressing my career when I know that I'm going to be behind Kieran Trippier. And that says it all for me. That says it all. This is a manager that is holding back talent. I'm not saying that all of the talent that has been let go, I'm not saying that Aji Alese would have made it in the first team. I'm not saying that Josh Cullen would have made it in the first team. I'm not saying that, all of these players, Manny Longello, who's out on loan, and he'll probably go at the end of this season. But let's be honest about it. They've had fleeting glimpses in the first team, little sort of cameos here. And I mean, Longello, let's have it right. The Zagreb game, player of the match, man of the match. It was between him and Ashby. I think they were the two standout candidates for me. I don't think we've seen him in the first team since Longello, and we probably won't. And that for me is a real crying shame, because this was a kid that had a really, really good game. And it was, thank you very much, and he's just tossed aside. Didn't, even in games where the result is already determined, the game's winding down, we're 3-0 up, we're 3-0 down. Where's the problem in bringing on a youth player in that situation? But it doesn't really happen under this manager.
It's sad because, I mean, you've already mentioned the one name that I was going to bring up in Cullen. We let him go. We went to Anderlecht under the Vincent Company, and I think within 3 months was made club captain.
Mm-hmm.
What more is there to say when you've got a giant of the game? I won't say legend of the game, not currently, but a giant of the game, a legend at Man City and Belgium. Making this young lad that's only been at the club 3 months club captain. The first thing he did when he left Anderlecht and joined Burnley was bring Cullen across.
Yep.
He obviously sees something in Josh Cullen that is that stands out. Something that Moyes didn't, and that's why Cullen left. Yeah, there's obviously issues with Moyes and the youth setup, be it attitude towards just how easy these players have it, as I mentioned earlier, whether there's a resentment of just how good these kids are. But no, you're all right. I'll stick with the tried and tested. I don't think he had a choice in a way with Rooney when Rooney came through, because he was that good. There was no.
But even he got held back.
Yeah, he did. And you know what? When he was let loose, we all saw it. The goal on his debut against Arsenal was something incredibly special. I think he lobbed David Seaman from 30 yards. It was something else. And you go on to look at the career that Wayne Rooney has gone and had, went and had. It kind of vindicates that he was good enough and to go on and do so. We're never going to know, Rob. You mentioned earlier we have the academy badge on the floor as you come out. It's been wasn't just here. It was back at the Boleyn. It was on the carpet as you came out of out the tunnel. But as you said, we haven't been there since, the 90s, the late 90s, the Carricks, the Coles, the Lampards, the Ferdinands, plural. Maybe someone else coming in. I don't want to go down another route, but there is a manager that's been linked with us in Pochettino that had huge success with a younger set of players when he was at Southampton, if I remember rightly, and kind of, if he comes in, do we keep this clutch of youngsters that we've got? Because they see then, no disrespect to Moyes, but under a different manager, they may see a route to the first team. Do you see what I mean? So yeah. I just think Moyes, listen, from that interview, I can ascertain that Moyes has a history of holding back players. Januzaj, that was the other fellow I couldn't remember, but that really is only three. Across
not many players that in his entire career you can really say he's brought into the first team and really given them an opportunity. Like I say, Wayne Rooney's the only one that I can think that has really, in all his time as a manager, to the best of my knowledge, that I can say firmly, that's a youth talent that he brought through. And okay, Wayne Rooney's on record and saying he felt he was being held back, and he goes on to say that his relationship was kind of frosty with Mr. Moyes off of the back of it. And like I say, I just look at it, I sort of think, fast forward 20 years, is this the reason why Ashby's off? Is this the reason why other players are probably, why Perkins went off ski? Because they didn't look at David Moyes and go, there is a manager that is progressive in developing youth talent. This is a manager that I believe will be good for my career to stay here and learn under his tutelage and his coaching. They've seen fit to just go, bye. And that's worrying. Like I say, if we're proclaiming to be the Academy of Football, and you and I are of a certain age, we hark back to a time when we would just plow out player after player after player. It was like a conveyor belt, and now it's a little trickle, really. I mean, Declan Rice is the last player that I would say has come through and been a rip-roaring success. Ben Johnson, I think the jury's still out on him, but you could probably say he's been a moderate success, if you will. And other than that, it's like, well, what else? That for me, that is not the Academy of Football. That tag for me is a tag that at the minute we are not living up to. Now, whether a new manager coming in, if a new manager comes in, whether they have a different approach. You mentioned Pochettino. I think that there's a manager, say what you want about his Tottenham connections, but there is a manager that would bring youth through quite regularly, give them an opportunity. And if they weren't good enough, they were off down the road. But if he saw something in them, he'd develop them, he'd nurture that talent, and they'd have a good career in front of them. And that's what I think we need to get back to. I regrettably don't think it's David Moyes that he'll change. I think he is what he is. He doesn't trust youth talent for whatever reason, whether it's a jealousy thing, whether it's a mistrust thing. But I just think that David Moyes is what he is. He's this far into his career, 60 odd years of age, and he's just going to say, well, this has always worked for me before, so I'm not going to change it now. But regrettable. Yeah. Anyway, once again, guys, if you've sat through and watched us, pair of prats waffling on, thank you very much for bearing with us. As I say, please do give our YouTube channel a subscribe if you wouldn't mind, and hit that bell icon. And whilst you're there, please do consider also giving your support to the Iron Supporting Food Bank charity. I've put the banner just there, very, very strategically placed. You can go there to Jed Just Giving page and chuck a few quid in their pot. It would be very much appreciated. And thanks very much again for Gio and Gonzo for giving us this opportunity on Hammers Chat. Come on, you Irons.